Well, New South Wales ratepayers footing the bill for record salaries for local government head honchos. Parramatta residents out there are forking out more than $600,000 to pay for the people who run their council last year. The City of Parramatta CEO Brett Newman took home $633,000, but sadly he's not alone. Northern Beaches CEO Ray Brownlee, he was paid $512,000. City of Sydney CEO Monica Barone, well, she took home $511,000. Let's discuss this now with my Monday panel from Melbourne, host of the Friday Showdown, Rita Panahi, and also here with me in Victoria, Executive Director of the Institute of Public Affairs, John Roskam. John, the Berejiklian government says, look, don't worry about all of this. We're going to bring in an independent body to set these wages rather than the councils themselves. But that'll end up just like the Remuneration Tribunal. We've seen it in Canberra, we've got it here in Victoria, and that just gives the MPs deniability. They say nothing to see with us, it's all an independent tribunal. Surely we need someone here to say it is not on that the CEO of the Parramatta Council's paid more than the PM.
Peter, that's exactly right. And these independent authorities have produced for federal public servants pay rates that are 2 or 3 times that of the US or the UK. So, for example, the Governor of the Reserve Bank gets something like $1 million, which is 2 or 3 times the equivalent of the US. So what the Premier is suggesting in New South Wales is no solution to this. I think she has to call out that this is too much money. This is money that is not for better results. And for someone from my situation at the Institute of Public Affairs, we've always argued that larger councils have invariably meant councillors and ratepayers lose control of the staff, which is why this has happened. And what you need to do is give more power to councillors to control salaries, because at the moment it's the staff running rings around elected councillors, and that's how they get away with it.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. And of course, the big concern too is, rates are taxes paid by people in local council areas, and any other real money that local government gets comes from state taxpayers or by and large from federal taxpayers. Rita, this is, I think people at home would be shocked by this, wouldn't they?
Well, they should be, to have someone at Parramatta Council, the CEO, they're getting paid more than the Prime Minister. We've got too many public servants in the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is too big, and they're getting paid well above what the private sector is that would be able to get for similar work. So I think it is a concern, and there has to be some accountability. And I think ratepayers are fed up. Council rates keep going up every year, and then you look at the service you're receiving, that seems to be diminishing. They're doing less bin collections, the things that they should actually be focusing on, they seem disinterested in.
Yeah, but all the protests about climate change and refugees, all the stuff they have no constitutional responsibility for, that's their new bread and butter. I'll go to you if I can, Rita, because you've been following this all very closely, this whole Wuhan virus and where we are now with COVID. Big exclusive of Sherry Markson on his show last night, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, footage showing them keeping live bats in cages, contradicting the World Health Organization that said the claim was a conspiracy. This video was published back in May 2017. It's been kept in the dark, but it adds weight, doesn't it, to the theory that this all came out of the lab?
Well, absolutely. And the fact that so many were eager to completely discount that theory, to say that any suggestion that this was a lab leak, and we're talking here about an accidental lab leak. I know there's some who believe this was a deliberate lab leak, but just an accidental lab leak. People were called conspiracy theorists for suggesting that. Scientists, well-credentialed scientists, had their reputations trashed because there was this ideological almost imperative to deny it, to say any suggestion, because why? Because Trump mentioned it, and as soon as Trump mentioned something, any notion of backing that up is just poison to the mainstream media. So we had, for more than 12 months, people being called conspiracy theorists, all these publications saying this theory has been utterly debunked. And of course it hasn't been. And the World Health Organization did not do a thorough review because China controlled who they could speak to, where they could go and what they had access to. So as it stands, we still don't know the origins of this virus. And this is a virus that, as we know, has devastated the world. We have to understand where it came from to ensure it doesn't happen again in the manner that we've seen.
Spot on. Look at all the time and effort going into the issue of climate change, which is decades and decades away, and yet we've got something that has devastated the world and economies right across the globe, and it's nothing to see here because it's China. We've all got to move on. I think this is where the focus has got to be. Interestingly, John, obviously G7, big focus of the international media over the weekend. One story, though, that struck me, and I don't think it got enough attention, comments by the Taiwanese foreign minister that China's on the verge of what's called a grey zone war against Australia. Dr. Joseph Wu has warned the Morrison government to prepare for Beijing to send armed fishing vessels into our waters to harass and intimidate Australian ships. They're doing it in Vietnam and the Philippines. Are we going to be able to stop them here, do you think?
Well, not if we'll be relying on submarines. But seriously, Peter, Australians have to be aware of this, and we need to know what the situation is. And I think the Morrison government has levelled with the Australian people about the challenges that we face in the China relationship. And the relationship is all related. The virus, we rely on the goodwill of a totalitarian dictatorship to allegedly tell us what the truth is. We're relying on their goodwill to police the region. These are very uncertain times. And again, exactly as you say, because it came from a Taiwanese minister, it got nowhere near the attention it deserved, whereas people were more interested in what President Biden's wife was wearing. This is much more serious than what the media has been talking about.
Well, I know you're a close observer of Israeli politics. New Prime Minister there, a right-wing nationalist, is taken power. Naftali Bennett is his name. It's in a coalition with a centrist. It means the end of Benjamin Netanyahu's 12-year grip on power. I don't know that I'm brave enough to say it's the end of Benjamin Netanyahu, though. I mean, the guy has been the great survivor of Israeli politics. Will this coalition last, do you think, John? And have we seen the end, as I said, of Netanyahu?
Oh, no, I think you're right, Peter. You never say never about Bibi. And Israeli politics is quite different to something we've seen here in Australia, which many politicians have commented on, which is there is an endless capacity to return from government no matter how many elections you've won or how many elections you've lost. The point about Israel is we need a strong government in Israel. It is a democracy in the Middle East. It is a force for peace. And we hope that this government can understand the challenges ahead exactly as Netanyahu did.
Rita, I've got to ask you about this announcement from the New South Wales Environment Minister, the favourite Green there of some left-wing Liberals, Matt Keane. The end of the plastic bags, he says. The Berejiklian government will ban the bags and plastic cutlery and straws and microbeads and cosmetics, all the way down to cotton buds, for God's sake. I get the argument about shopping bags. I mean, I try and take ones to the supermarket that are going to last more than a couple of days. But the Productivity Commission, they had a report on this back in 2006. They said it was a bad idea. What do you think, Rita?
Well, I think it's a daft idea. We're really filling up landfill with cotton buds and plastic straws. I just think there's good policies you can make in this area that make sense and you would have the majority of the population with you. And then there's daft ones. And Matt Keane too often opts for the daft option. And this is another one. When it comes to, say, plastic plates, disposable plates, there's good paper options. But pick your battles. Don't just try to ban everything that is plastic, because sometimes it's plastic for a reason. And Australia doesn't, we don't dispose our waste in waterways. We do actually dispose of our waste properly.
Rita Panahi, John, thank you for coming in on a public holiday here in Victoria. Really appreciate it. Rita Panahi, John Roskam.